Hello, bookworms! Today I'm going to be talking to you all about how I rate books. Everybody has different rating systems, so especially when you're watching a booktuber or like reading a book blog or something, it's nice to know what goes into somebody deciding to give a certain book a certain rating. So I've been wanting to do this video for a while, and I finally decided to do it because my rating system has kind of evolved. I started using like a bullet journal, and I have one bullet journal that I carry with me all the time that is my like bookish bullet journal, and then I have another one that is a fandom journal, and that one is like much prettier and has so much more that's gone into it, whereas the bookish one that is like much more plain, and it just has like things that I use on a daily basis that I need to write down, and I don't necessarily have the time to be like super creative and fancy with. So I found that in the past I would sometimes be guilty of finishing a book and like being really excited by the ending or like whatever, and then giving it a higher rating on Goodreads than I necessarily wanted to, because I would just be like, oh my god, this is so good. And you know, like when you finish a book and you're just on that like high of that ending that really excited you. So I didn't really want to be one of those people that rates books based just on the ending. I really wanted to make all of my ratings more thoughtful and make sure that I am really considering the entirety of the book and not just the feeling that I got once I finished the book. So since I've started my bullet journal, I write down each book that I'm reading, and then I have 6 different categories that I give stars to based on what I've read, and then I'll take an average of those 6 ratings to get my overall rating. So the first thing that I look at when reading a book is the plot. I think of the whole story, of the whole like message that the author was trying to send by writing this story, and just the entire thing overall, not just the ending. From start to finish, I think about the entire plot when I'm reading that. Then I move on to the characters. I think about how well each character was developed, whether they were a main character or a side character. I think about whether the characters underwent any kind of growth or development, where they were in the beginning of the story versus where they were at the end of the story, how well I feel like they progressed throughout the whole thing, because it would be really bad to read a story where the character makes no progression or really learns no life lessons or anything. So that is the second element that I look at. Then I move on to writing, which is basically just what I think of the way that the book was written, the kind of prose that the author uses. Is it more like lyrical writing with lots of adjectives? Is it more simplistic that's like very to the point? I think about the way that it was written and how it appeals to me, as opposed to other books too. And then after I look at the writing, I move on to the pacing. The pacing of the novel captures like the general flow of the story. So was it really slow in the beginning and then it got really action-packed? Was it really action-packed in the beginning and then it got kind of boring? Or was it action all the way through? Or was there like just inconsistency? Was it like boring action, boring action, boring action? Because the pacing of a story can really throw things off if there's not something happening to really capture your interest at points. That can really throw off your whole feeling of the book and maybe not make you as excited to pick it back up to read it if you're in the middle of it. So pacing is something that is really important to me. And also the worst, I think, is when you read an entire story and you're really excited because there's all this buildup for this like big ending, and then the ending is covered in like 1 to 5 pages and you're like, what? There should be so much more here. I think pacing is a really important part of reading books. Then the last 2 categories are more superficial categories. So one of them is the cover, because I really do buy a lot of books based on the cover, and I have almost missed out on some great books because I didn't enjoy the cover, like The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis, which is now one of my favorite books of 2016. I almost didn't read it because the cover was so terrible. And, you know, there's whole teams that work on these covers and decide that this is like the way that the book should be marketed. So I feel like that is an important part of the book. It obviously is nowhere near as important as what the actual story was, but it is the initial thing that can get you to pick it up or to not pick it up. So I rate that. And then the final thing that I rate is my enjoyment level, because there are plenty of books that are either very problematic or I fully grasp that they are not good, well-written books. Like the Selection series is not like a great book, but it's really enjoyable. So I do take that into consideration when I'm rating, because I think that while it is important to challenge yourself and to read books that are like on a higher level and that will like challenge your mind and just make you think of other things, it also is important to read books that you're going to enjoy, because ultimately reading is a hobby and it's something that we do for fun, that we enjoy it, hopefully. I mean, obviously you have to do it for school sometimes too, but overall, like the books that you're reading on your free time, you want to enjoy those. So I definitely take that into consideration when I'm rating as well. So I'll rate each of them between 1 and 5 stars, and then I'll take all 6 of those ratings for plot, characters, writing, pacing, cover, and enjoyment level, and I will take an average from all of those, and then that gives me my overall rating for the book. So this is something that I've actually employed like semi-recently. I haven't been doing it the whole year, so my ratings probably will change a little bit, but since I started implementing this, I've been really, really happy, and I feel like I'm putting a lot more thought into my ratings, and I am being much more frugal with 5-star ratings. I just think that it's really important to do that, to think of every single element and to not let that ending excitement get you and like get you to give a book a higher rating than it really deserves or a lower rating than it really deserves. I just wanted to let you guys know what goes into me deciding how many stars to give each book that I read, since I would assume you get recommendations from my channel since I'm here talking about books. So let me know how you rate books. Do you do something different? Do you rate based on enjoyment? Do you rate solely based on like the different literary elements that go into the structure of the novel? I would love to know, because everyone does something different. So I think it's just important to know how each person does it when you're kind of deciding whose opinion you should look to when you're looking for new books. That's all that I have for this video, and I will see you guys soon with a new one. Bye!